Hello and welcome to All For United WFC. Do not adjust your telephone or your TV screens or any of that jazz. This is not Connor with his head turned upside down. It is I, Barry, in the top corner. Connor's having a well-deserved day off. I think he's having a cut and a blow dry or something like that. So he'll be getting himself sorted so he's ready for Monday's masterclass. But until then, you're stuck with me. So if that's a shame, unlucky. You should have guessed from the thumbnail. Katie Zellam's front and centre. Wonder why we did that. There you go. And that's what I'm going to say on that one before I get myself absolutely shot. But the rest of you, welcome. Lovely to have you here. We're looking forward to tomorrow. And we have assembled, much like the Avengers, an absolutely amazing superhero type of group of people. A couple of people we haven't seen for a while. And one, it was in on Wednesday when I wasn't invited. So lots to talk about. We'll say hello to that one first. Charlie, lovely to have you back on the show. How are you, young lady?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Two shows in a week for me is unusual. But I was missing you, Bazza. So I'm glad to be here. Yeah. Looking forward to a preview show, which hopefully won't be as upsetting as a post-game show.
I mean, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? But I can't promise that. I can't promise it. You just never know. And sitting there just below Charlie, we have Helen, who we've not seen for a while. We're obviously waiting for the appearance that we always have of the cat's backside. It's coming at some point, I'm sure. But until then, Helen, how are you? Lovely to have you back. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. And just down here, the last time I'd messaged her was December 2022. So that appears to have been quite a time since we managed to get this young lady on. She's had a whole change in her life since then. She got married and everything and all that sorted. But she's still an Everton fan. So hence, we brought her in. So Fee, welcome back to the show. How in the Red Devils are you?
Well, in the Blue Toffees, I'm really well, thanks.
I tried.
No, it's been a long time. I think I think I've been on since December 22, maybe once.
I'm sure you have. That'll be a Connor job though.
Yeah.
When he invited you on, but I took the reins tonight and decided who was coming on. So there you go. We have sorted it out. So here we are. Welcome. Yes, we were just a tiny wee bit late starting today, but don't you worry about that. Plenty of things to get squeezed in the next 53 minutes. Because obviously the men are kicking off and I'm sure there are people that will want to watch that. But we will see how we go. Let's kick off with the obvious one. And we'll start off with you, Fee, if you don't mind. Because we've not had you on for a while, why don't you give us a little rundown of how you're feeling about this season? And that's not meant to be a loaded question, but obviously it might come across that way. But we haven't really had the chance to speak to you. Are you happy? Has the season gone the way that you kind of thought it might?
Not at all. Not at all. We've been, I think the only word is plagued with injuries. We had a pretty good run last season where nobody really got injured. We had Nico Sorensen out for half the season. Just got her back to full fitness, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, guys, I'm retiring." So she went halfway through the season. We've got the players for it, but we just haven't found our form in front of goal. I think that's how I can summarise it. We've been pretty solid in defence, even when we've played with no defenders on the pitch, which has always been interesting. I mean, we played City with no defenders. But yeah, these injuries have been worrying, and it's meant a lot of our strong players have been out for a lot of the season, and I think that's shown in a lot of our scores.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, it's always a hard one as well. Somebody who's sitting down the wrong end of the table, how things are going. But well done for being honest and telling us what you're thinking. Helen, for you, again, we've not had you on for a while, so I'm going to ask the same question for you. You know, from a United point of view, how are you feeling with the way this season has gone so far?
Quite disappointed. But at the same time, not surprised. I think last year was the highest of highs, despite not winning anything. But I would have thought we could at least be matching as good as we were with the seasons before last season. And I was hoping for a trophy in third, perhaps this season, to sort of maintain the level. This sort of drop off we've had. And I know we've had our injuries as well, as Fiona said about Everton, but the squad should have been decent enough not to have the results we've had. So yeah, disappointed overall.
I think you echo the thoughts of most people. Connor has just popped in just to say hello, and I don't know where he's going with it. What hair? This ain't going. I did nearly have a shave before I came on, but I thought that would scare people too much. So that's your advance warning for the next time I am on. Okay. Charlie, well, I don't really need to ask you what you think of the season so far, because we've sort of done that time and time again. So we'll take this into the Everton game now and push it more into that territory. What are your initial thoughts about this game against Everton? It's one of those where, I mean, we've got a 12-0 aggregate against them so far this season, but Mark Skinner in his conference is very clear that he doesn't expect it to be the same. He thinks they've shored up. They're not conceding as many goals. Doesn't think it's going to be the same. What's your initial outlook on this game? Are you feeling confident this should be 3 points for us, or do you go along with what Mark says that it might be a bit more tricky than that?
I do think with this one that we will win this game, only because when we've played Everton in like this, the 2 times we played them this season and in previous seasons, I think the reason we tend to have joy against them, except for the one most important game last season, I think, is because they try and come out and play football. And often teams lower down the league will sit in against us, and we're dreadful at breaking teams down now. Like, that we have no strategy for that. So you think probably what Everton are doing and looking at and going, we'll just sit in, lads and lasses, we'll just sit in and then we'll try and catch United on the counter. But I'm hoping Everton will just come out and try and play football, because they have a good squad considering the injuries and sort of lots of players that Everton have lost recently, which they haven't been able to replace probably in the way they'd like due to money issues. I think it's a shame for Everton really, because they've got a fairly good side. They're just a bit thin on the ground, I think. But I think they will try and come and play football. I think you won't have players in your team like Finnegan. What a phenomenal player she is. You've got Hannah Bennison. Garley's really good. I know they've probably not had, Fee might say, probably not had the number of goals they'd want for Piemonte. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I think she's got more to offer. I just think with those types of players, I can't see them just sitting in and just soaking up pressure, because they like to come out and play football. I think Sorensen's done a brilliant job with them considering the situation that they're in. And I think probably that will help us in the long run, because they'll want to come out and play and get something from the game. And that might mean that we can nick a goal or two.
Absolutely. I don't know. There might be. Give it a crack. Try shouting something out into it, and if it repeats, then yes, there is. In which case, just turn the PC off and start again. Is what I would do. Fee, let's talk to you a little bit about what Mark Skinner's just said. The idea that, number one, he doesn't think it's going to be as, I use the word easy, but to score 12 goals at the end of the day in 2 games was not the easiest. And if Nikita Parris is playing, maybe you need to be worried about that one. But he does say that you're overloaded in lots of different ways, that you're a lot more solid, as I said, conceding a lot less goals. Would you go along with what Mark Skinner's saying there? Do you think that regardless of what the result is, that it's going to be a lot tighter than the other 2 games or not?
I think we'll be looking at a close games. I don't think the scoreline will be running away. And I think that says a lot about Everton's defence. We've got a lot of key defenders back from injury in both home guard twins. Katrin Vaya, she's back. Meg Finnegan was a doubt, but she's back in training today. So we've got a lot of strong defenders back. And I mean, Lucy Hope and Justine Van Havermaet have been looking great slotting into defence where needed recently. And I think we've probably learned from previous games that when we try to play football, we end up conceding. So I think we might actually shock a lot of people and we might sit back. I know Brian loves playing out from the back and sitting back, but it's when we break forward that we end up getting stuck on the counter. So I think hopefully if we do sit back and play our football that I've seen us playing brilliant quantities this season, it might be harder for United to break through.
Okay, well, that seems fair enough. And Helen, following on from that, one of the other things that he did say was that we need to use the hurt of the result against Manchester City in order to fuel this game. Do you think that's too little too late in terms of using the hurt, or are we in a position where we need to get that 4th place back as a minimum?
It'd be nice if they used the hurt in the second half of that game. But we've moved on, in theory. Yeah, whatever works. Use whatever works. If you're hurting because you're not performed as you should have, great. You've got another game to turn it around. But there should be more than that. There should be some strategy to try and beat Everton tactically as well, not just relying on emotions and the players wanting to be better, which of course they're going to do anyway. Everyone wants to be better every week than the last performance, because you're only as good as your last performance. I just think people have figured out United. They did it a bit last year. They seem to have done it this year. You either do a low block or you press them and they make mistakes. So if Everton do either one of those or a combination of both, we might have a bit of a sticky, no pun intended, time.
I mean, you're not kidding. I mean, a lot of this is going to be based around some of the things that Mark Skinner's brought up, because I've listened to both of his press conferences, like the interview that he had with the guys on MUTV and the ordinary one as well. And yeah, it's quite something as ever. Very interesting question here. Would I swap Mark Skinner for Jonas Eidevall? Do you know, like, Jonas Eidevall is someone who really wound me up last year. And then during the World Cup, everybody kept on saying how well he spoke and how good he was. And so I just deliberately didn't watch any pre-match stuff. So I still don't like Jonas Eidevall. I've been immune from that particular situation. But there is no doubting that the guy is doing a lot better at Arsenal at the moment than Mark Skinner's doing at United. So would I take him? I don't think he'd come, more importantly. So, you know, I'm not convinced that would be a viable option. So therefore, as you've asked the question, that's the answer, but I don't think it would. So I'm just going to say no, because it ain't going to happen. So there we go. So many quotes here that I could kick off with. Let's kick off with the obvious one, which is the one about Jade Riviere. She is not going to be available for the weekend. She's out with a hip injury, according to Mark Skinner. They are monitoring the situation. They're going to look at it over the weekend, see how she is, and then obviously see how she is for the next game. How much of a loss, Charlie, is it to not have Jade Riviere in the team?
Absolutely massive, because
Can you show us how massive that is using like arm lengths? Is it like massive, too much?
You
can
can't
use my arms as well, this much.
You can't see my wingspan on the screen, which isn't saying much because it's your wingspan is only equivalent to your height. But my wingspan and back around, a massive loss, because what will happen is a right back won't play at right back in her place. So she'd be a loss anyway. She's been one of our players of the season so far. But I think if we popped Mayer at right back and played Aoife Mannion at centre back, that would make it less catastrophic. But that isn't. I don't think that's what's going to happen. We're going to either play a centre back at right back, just a centre back like Aoife, or we're going to move Hannah to right back to play Gemma Evans a centre back at left back, which means it'll be even more catastrophic than really it needs to be. So yes, she's a massive loss because I don't trust the decision-making process that's going to take place as a result of that.
Absolutely. He was saying they're huge not having Jade. She's definitely been a bright spark in a lackluster team. And to be fair, she has stepped up. I think the difference between having Honor at right back and having Jade when she came in after in like the 5th game has really shown actually just how good of a defender she was, and probably the right decision to have brought her in last season. And again, just another reason to have given her more time. We'll not back down to Helen for the same question before dropping over to Fee. Jade Riviere, just how important do you think Jade Riviere is, and what do you see happening with that defence with Jade being out?
Jade's player of the season for me, I think, to come in for her first sort of professional football playing time in her career. She's straight out of college, I believe. She's had a rough start. She got thrown in at the deep end a bit. played slightly out of position, but has just flourished, done really well. She's an attacking threat as well. Her crosses are really good. So, and we don't have another right back, pretty much. He obviously doesn't want to play Maya there. I think Aoife ended up there in the derby for a bit, or sort of higher right wing almost. So and we like Hannah at left back, but right back she's not the same, and through no fault of her own. But I think we'll probably see Leah at left back, Hannah at right back, and the same centre halves, which it might work, it might not. But it's just that it's frustrating for the fans because we see different things perhaps, and the management, the coaching staff don't seem to want to make these decisions that we think would benefit the team. But easy to say as a fan. What do we know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very strange indeed. I mean, I'm not sure what NT exactly. I'm presuming this is sarcasm about somebody injured her. Like she's not playing, she's like ruled out. But I'm presuming that he's just going to play her anyway because she was injured, and then they brought her back on. I'm guessing that's where NT is going with that. But if not, who knows? Memphis saying Helen couldn't agree with you more. Player of the season for him as well. But in answer to this question, James, I can confirm that Mark Skinner revealed that both Leah Goulton and Hinata Miyazawa, or as I will be referring to them in this show, Leah and Mia, they will be back tomorrow. But he did say not a full 90, so we are expecting to see them on at some point, but they won't be starting. So with that in mind, Leah Goulton will not be at left back to begin with, joined late, or maybe she will, maybe she'll start and somebody else comes on. To be fair, that could also happen, and that's absolutely fine. Fee, I mean, Emily Moxham's already asked the question. I mean, I think I've already asked this to you, really, about your feelings for it, whether you're optimistic you can take something. Is it just damage control? She's a Liverpool fan, by the way, so just thought I'd throw that one out there because there might be a little bit of needle today. You can never quite be sure. But, I mean, looking at your last five, it's been a bit up and down. You had the draw against Liverpool, obviously, a loss to Villa with a red card, a loss to Chelsea, and, of course, a loss to City. But you did beat West Ham. You've beaten Nottingham Forest convincingly as well in the FA Cup. It's kind of one of those, isn't it? Does it kind of depend which Man United turns up for you tomorrow?
Yeah, it makes a big difference when Jade Riviera's out. I mean, I wish it was Nikita Parris, but I can only dream. But I think a lot of the things that apply to United apply to us as well, sort of fueling that hurt. It was a big thing for us to draw and not score at the Merseyside derby. And I think the girls will be carrying that into the game. They'll want to level the playing field. But like you said, out of our last 4 or 5, the only one really we should have come away with the win from was Aston Villa. We're never going to meet Chelsea standards. We're never going to meet City standards. We pulled City in close, and that was the game that we had no defence on the team. And I sat there and said, if our girls play like that every week, we'll come away with points. So there are benefits, but out of the games we've had recently, we weren't expecting big points. We'll try and match as much as we can get. But with our funding and the limitations we've got on the squad at the moment, having lost Gabby George and Natalie Bjorn so close together, without sort of replacing them at all, how are we ever going to match sort of those teams? But again, it's taking that hurt and fueling ourselves and coming out and playing the best football we've got.
Absolutely. Sporty saying that he thinks Everton did well against Chelsea in the Cup, just didn't take their chances. It sounds like Man United game, that one. But there we go. I mean, it's a fair point, like you say, that it is just replacing players once they're gone, and it's something that we've kind of done, but not to the correct level sometimes. And there's Fiona and Helen getting a round of applause from Toowoomba, so congratulations you two.
I just want to mention, in January's window, before we'd fully lost Natalie Bjorn, it was still being rumoured, I had a conversation with Brian Sorensen. I said, are we going to get any more defenders in this season? And he said, no, we don't need them. So we replaced our defender with 2 midfielders, and we've seen a defence lineup of midfielders. So whether you think it's good to have that versatility in players, or if that was sort of poor decision making, that's up to the individual. I would have liked to have seen at least one defender come in, especially when everybody was injured.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And Emily thrown in there, I'm totally impartial when it comes to sensible debates, Barry. A bit like yourself, or at least I see you as sensible and impartial. Thank you. It's what I aim for. But sometimes I'm biased and angry, which I'm hoping won't come across too much today. But I fear that as we get to the latter parts of this show, the devil might be released. But we shall see. Charlie, let's throw it back to you again. We've spoken a little bit, as I said, about Leah and Mia and the fact that the two of them will be back at some point. He speaks a lot in his press conference about how last year we had selection. Here it comes. It's coming. Go on, turn around. It's really weird, but we do literally tend to see the tail, which tries to put a head in this time. So there we go. I lost where I was going with that now. That cat always does this to me. What a brilliant cat.
But in his press conference, he talks a lot.
Yeah, he was talking a lot about maintaining squad consistency last year and how he put the same team out time and again, and the consistency of squad led to consistency of performance. And it's quite interesting because he talks this season about how he hasn't managed to have that. And he spoke specifically about the defence, said, I haven't had the chance to put out the same defence. So naturally, I went through every single match that we played so far this season just to work out just how much it had to change the defence. And what I found out is that in 26 games of playing football, May Le Tissier played every single one of them. Millie Turner played 24 of them, so she only missed 2. Hannah Blundell played 23, 16 on the left, 7 on the right. Gabby George managed 4 before she was broken. Jade Rivieres managed 16 in between being broken and going abroad. And Leah Galton played 2. And Ethan Mannion's obviously come on as a little bit. Gemma Evans with 5 games. I think there's 6, for Gemma Evans. I didn't count her up, but he has had to change it, but it doesn't change the fact that we've only had 5 defenders all season, really, because Gabby George got injured. And between them, it's been Hannah, Jade, Maya, Millie, and Gemma. And those have been our 5. We've had to throw Leah Galton in. Like, you listen to what's being said there, and you want to believe what's going on. You want to hear what's being said, and you want to give credence to it, because I argued all last season, don't change the team. But when he says something like that, and he points to the defence, points to the fact that Fee talking about the January transfer window and the fact that they didn't need a new defender, we blatantly needed another fullback and just didn't get one in. Like, it's almost like he doesn't check his stuff before he says it, because all of those changes have been made by himself. And had he just done the right thing, which was to shift May Le Tissier over to the right, put the left back in and play 2 centre backs, he could have done that for the entirety of this season. So that was a long-winded way of saying what sort of team do you think he's going to put out, but also, do you agree with him?
I think, yeah, like like Gabby George was unfortunate, wasn't it? But we have had played fairly consistently the same 4 for a lot of games. Like, it has been the 2 centre backs, Jade and Hannah. I mean, I feel like when he talks about inconsistency, what it's felt like as a fan watching is he's tended to do is do random weird amalgamations of a particular 4 or 5 defenders. So swapping the centre backs over at Man City, like, that's a change, but you caused that. That didn't need to happen. Moving Hannah over to the right sometimes and playing someone else on the left, like, that's not a forced change. You've chosen to make those what look like tactical changes for reasons that I'm not sure. And I would also argue, like, our situation with our defence is not the same as Everton's has been. Like, Everton they've had no defenders. Like, it's been difficult for us at times, but we've always had players able to play in those positions, at least as defenders, even if they're not a left back or a right back specialist. So I just think it's all a little bit of hot air, really. It's the same as saying, oh, because we haven't got, like he was talking the other day as well about, oh, Melvin Millard hasn't slotted in as well as we would have liked because Gabby George got injured, and then she had to play with Hannah, and then Gemma Evans had to play a bit, as if these aren't like elite athletes who train together all week. I think it's almost laughable to talk about the defensive unit having to change a little bit when you look at what other sides are having to deal with and put up with and are playing better football than us. So I just think it's a a bit like, oh, poor me, Gabby George got injured, which was horrible, by the way. Oh, now I'm going to have to play Jade Riviere and Hannah Blundell. Oh, woe is me. Oh, one of them is injured. Oh, now Aoife Manning's got to come in. Like, we've got players to play in these positions. I personally think he's playing them at times in a really higgledy-piggledy way, which actually stifles us. Like, we've talked about the obvious answer to Jade being out is Maya to move over and play a centre-back. And it's not an inexperienced centre-back. It's Aoife Mannion, who was colossal for us 2 seasons ago and has had brilliant performances odd here and there over the last 2 seasons. It's not like we're bringing in like a developmental squad player. I just think, no, I just don't buy it. It's a load of rubbish.
You're quite right. And then even Gemma Evans, Sean, who pops on here every now and again when Brighton are playing, states how good she is for Wales as well. So it is a bit mad. RC Samuels also mentioned our deep midfielder, Hayley Ladd, has been basically dropped this season. She's our best midfielder, opinion. Her work is missing from this team, and we wonder why we concede. But yeah, it was just nonsense. And absolutely, I love the words higgledy and piggledy put together as well. It's lovely when you can throw those in. Helen, what I would say to you as well, just to add on to that, when you're talking about potential team that might be playing, he talks a lot about how players need to get used to the system. They've got to get used to each other. You've got to know what it is that a certain players do. And that back four that we just mentioned of Hannah Blundell, Millie Turner, May Letitia and Jade Riviere has been the back four for exactly 13 of the 26 games that have been played. So judging by what Skinner's talking about, he's actually got a back four that have played and should know how each other are playing by now. Obviously, with the exception of Jade Riviere, would you imagine it's going to be the same defence or what do you see? How do you see him lining up, the starting lineup? What's your general thoughts? What would you do if you were Mark Skinner? And no, you can't say resign because that doesn't help with the whole story.
I'm sort of in 2 camps. Like, don't change the defence too much, say the back 5, for example, but also recognise if it's not working and if you have to change it through injuries, take a chance on someone. Like we've been saying, move Maya to the right. Because I think Charlie covered it really well. We've got cover, maybe not loads and loads in the fullback areas, but central defenders. I know Aoife's been injured a lot this season, but she's available now. And Hayley Ladd can slot in at centre half. She plays there for Wales, I think. So, yeah, I'd expect. Well, I suppose we don't know where Hannah's going to play. Is the only one, I suppose, and who's going to deputise for Jade, whether it's a change at left back or a change at right back or both. He might play back 3. Who knows? That would be something. I would put. I don't know. I'd prefer to keep Hannah at left back and then take a chance on a right back, not being a sort of proper right back, if you like. Give Evie Rabjohn a go if she's fit. Like, I was impressed with her when she played. She had a brief cameo before she got injured. I think it was in one of the cups, probably the Conti Cup. I really like it. She's young, she's fearless, she gets stuck in. Give her a chance. Like.
I think it's a fair point. Certainly one that Twillenber talks about quite a bit of putting the youngsters in and just giving them a chance and sort of seeing where it goes with that one. But Fee, again, from an Everton point of view, we're talking about the problems we're having. Are there any dramas over there at Walton Hall Park? Are you sitting there wishing that your manager, is it just us? Are we the only ones at the WSL at the moment sitting there wishing that the Wizard of Oz was real and all that sort of thing, and that there's no place like last season. The first
I
thing
would like there to be a place like last season. I'm just thinking about sort of the defence problem at United. I've seen Aoife Mannion play very strong games at right back. She played right back at City. She was sort of that Lucy Bronze drop-in kind of player. Is that not just the easiest option? I mean, she's forever injured. I mean, when was the last time Aoife Mannion played a full 90 minutes? Are we worried about another ACL there? But, I mean, she's got 2 fake ones now. Off she goes. But, yeah, again, no season like last season. What I'd do to have Gabby George back on our side, down that left wing, pairing up with Via, to have Nat Bjorn back, Nico, Aggie Beaver-Jones, Jess Park. But we've got to make do with what we've got. And I think everybody's wishing that we still had so-and-so and so-and-so, or certain combinations, but we don't. And we've got to look at what we've got and how to get the most from it.
And speaking about what you've, I bet he hasn't either. That man is a heathen. Like, he needs a Netflix subscription. Although he pretends he's got one. Looking at the stats for your side, goals don't seem to be something that you've scored a huge amount of so far this season. People like Megan Finnegan has obviously had, quite a good season for you, but in general, it doesn't seem to quite be where, like we've already said, where you would want it to be. Where do you see the problems that Manchester United could face coming from? Where should United be worried about? If Mark Skinner's watching this and he wants to know what Everton are really doing, which I doubt he does, because I think he's fallen out with me. If he was, what would you say would be the things that we should worry about as a football club? Where do you think you could take advantage of us?
So the 2 places we've performed probably the best in this season is corners. We've got a lot of height in our team. Players like Meg Finnegan drop back, they lose their defender easily, and in a little knock goes. And we've actually been all right scoring from outside the box. We've got players like Yaya Gali and Hannah Bennison that they've taken those shots from just outside the box and scored them. I mean, Yaya Gali got goal of the season for hers. And I think if our players are in that mindset where they're happy to take a chance, that might be where you get hurt.
Okay, so we could get hurt. There we go. You heard it here first.
The words "could" are very important there.
Okay, well, it depends. Paper cuts are the smallest of cuts, but for me, the worst cut you could get. I think I'd rather have slash myself with a knife whilst cutting me. I would. I'm going to paper cuts are horrible, Charlie. Like, if I was sitting there and I had the decision between a paper cut or accidentally slashing my finger whilst I'm cutting up my onions, I'd pick the finger, because I probably wouldn't notice that too much.
Yeah, the initial shock, but surely, like, if we're looking at longevity, longness of
paper cuts are fiddly, and there's no point putting a plaster over them, and you just sit there like, and then when you move the wrong way, just even thinking about it is sending me goosey. I don't like it. Helen will back me up. You don't like a paper cut, do you, Helen?
I don't.
And working in an office, the worst thing is a cardboard cut.
Oh no!
That's 100 times worse than a paper cut.
I think we're in a faint. I can't even. It's horrific. Hate them. Okay. Let's talk about Jay's, Charlie, because call me a wimp, Dave. It's horrific paper cuts. They're death by 1,000 paper cuts would be terrible. Jay's, Charlie, she's been an absolute bright spark this season, someone we've had the chance to admire. And exactly, NC, right? Exactly. That is the one. When it's right, let's stop talking about paper cuts. She has performed incredibly well, and she works incredibly hard down that right-hand side. Again, Mark Skinner's talking about when she's a 3-on-1 and using it to her advantage better, learning when to pass more. We know that there's more to come from Jay's, that there's the ability to see better from her. But again, he talks about how she's only just hit double digits in terms of games for us. And that actually it could take her 40, 50 games before we eventually see Jay's. Now, as she should be. Is there an element here?
That's 2 whole seasons. That is a mental thing to say. Is that a joke? I didn't see that. Did he actually say that?
No, it's not a joke. He actually talks about we can iron it all out by the end of the season, but yeah, when Jay's is on 40, 50 games, she'll be like the finished Arsenal. Because at that point, she understands. And this is where I lose it a little bit, because you listen to it and you think he does. Don't watch it. It's on the Man United app. Honestly, roughly about halfway and he's talking about Jay's. It's actually unreal. And as he starts talking about it and saying about the 40, 50 games, he consistently talks about how the team needs to get to know how each other play. I mean, I mentioned it to Helen whilst you went off a minute ago, needing 10 to 20 games. So actually, she says Melvine's coming, but she needs to learn the nuances of how Hannah plays at left back and how Gabby plays at left back and all these other players play at left back. So as a result, that's like 30 to 60 games. And then he also talks about, and we might as well get it out there whilst it was there because you sent it to us, the quote that he made about not having a left-footed left back at left, and how actually that would make a massive difference, and that was why he wanted Gabby George, as if Hannah Blundell was just, a fart in the wind all through last season, and that she wasn't one of our better players. But as he was saying that, and as he's talking about Jay's doing that, what do you think of just her and her ability, and can she, now that she's got this game against Everton, can she and Nikita Parris link up again? We all know how Nikita Parris loves a goal against Everton. How many do you reckon she can bag this weekend? I'm going 2.
Right, I'm sorry. There was so much in between you starting to ask me that question and that question ending that I feel like I have to unpick here, because it's like you've just dropped a grenade in the room and then ran out. Right, okay. First and foremost, you can't buy a player on a 2.5-year, 3-year contract and then say it's going to take them 2 seasons to understand how to play the football you want to play. Because if it's 50 games, that is 2 full seasons, cup games included. And then if you're going to say we're going to get this Women's Champions League World Cup winner, not World Cup winner, sorry, this Women's Champions League winner multiple times on a 1-season loan, and then imply it's going to take them maybe 30 games, what have you got them for then? Because there's not 30 games. I don't understand why someone in the media team at United hasn't watched this at other times when he said things like this and gone, Mark, you know that thing you said? Even if you think it, don't say that thing. Because it doesn't, like, if you listen to like Eric Ten Hag talk or other managers, it's clearly like they're trained, aren't they? So you don't get yourself in a sticky situation. You don't say things that can be picked apart. It just does it all the time. This is an absolute nonsense. It's just like another way of saying, well, it's going to take him 50 games, so it's not my fault. Like, Fiona, like, imagine, because we're most of us United fans, so when someone else is on, like Brian Sorensen comes out, you buy a new player, and then he goes, it's going to take him 50 games though. It's going to take him 50 games to have any idea. Like, I don't understand that. But anyway, speaking about Jace, she's really exciting. She is the closest thing I've seen for Man United women that makes me react how Ronaldo used to make me react when Cristiano Ronaldo first came to United. It's exciting. You get up off your seat. But her end product still isn't quite where it should be. Sometimes that's down to her, and sometimes it's down to literally no one making the run into the box, so that when she delivers the ball into the box, there's no one there. And if there is someone there, often it's 3 players running to the exact same place, which is the back post, all of them together at the same time. So there's a couple of things there. But my mind now, Barry, is fried. I don't even know if I answered the question you want me to answer. I think she's brilliant. I think she's a world beater. But I'm so overwhelmed by the other things that you said. I'm emotionally.
We'll find the sound clip and I'll message it to you.
Fiona. I've got to come to you here, Fiona, right? Because I'm emotionally invested in Man United, so I get overly emotionally involved all the time. Okay, what is your opinion on him from an outside point of view, on him saying about those 2 players, it will take him 50 games or about 30 games to understand how to do what we're doing? What do you think about that generally, apart from being like, haha, that's hilarious, I'm glad our manager's not said that?
My choice words for Mark Skinner aren't appropriate for the internet. To begin with,
Everything's appropriate for the internet. Come on.
There might be children watching, Charlie. But that's ridiculous. These are professional athletes. What are they doing all week in training if they're not learning to play with each other? I mean, quite lucky at Everton that we brought in Catherine Cull on loan and Rika Madsen. They came straight out in January and played like they'd been in Everton forever. And I think that shows a lot about what's done off the pitch in making players welcome, making them play with different players during their training. So what's Mark Skinner doing off the pitch? Is he just turning up on a Sunday and going, you've never played together, off you go?
Muted myself there rather than unmuting myself. I mean, it is mad. I mean, there's a lot of people. There is something to be said. To be fair to him, there is something to be said for maybe needing a bit of time to bed into a new club. And he does talk about how she doesn't speak English, so obviously she's got that barrier to overcome. So
Can I just say something about that though? Like, very few, like United women, or United in general, are actually amazing for player welfare when it comes to stuff like not speak like English and additional language. Like Miyazawa, Jace, Mallard, they've had their own. Like United have given them their own translators. Like they've done all of that stuff. They've got someone with them all the time to translate for them. They're giving them. They're doing the process of helping them learn English. Like they're doing all of those things. Like she is. I know she wasn't Barcelona's best player. Like someone else put it here, does he have amnesia? She played for Barcelona. Like she did play for Barcelona. And before that, she played for another Spanish side, which in all this madness, it escapes me which side that was. I'm really sorry, I can't remember because I'm just absolutely baffled by what's going on. And she was like second top scorer playing for a mid-table Spanish side. So she's a good footballer. She's played good football for Barcelona and for like a mid-table Spanish side. And yes, she doesn't speak English, but she's an elite athlete. She's an elite footballer, and United have put things in place to support her with that, like they have Mallard, like they have Miyazawa. I don't. Why have we bought her? Why have we bought her if we're saying? I don't. I'm
just to jump in. All the clubs have players that don't speak English.
Yes.
Chelsea have got the new Colombian who doesn't speak English. We brought in Aurora Galli when she was the first Italian player. Didn't speak English. Football's an international language.
So I'll just finish what I was going to say there, which was, because at the moment everybody's shouting at me in the chat. What I was trying to say was that, yes, she doesn't speak English currently. You know, she's struggling to do that, but it shouldn't take that long. I mean, half a season for me, tops, to get used to what you're doing at a football club. By the next transfer window, if you've been involved and around the team, which she was, it shouldn't be a situation of being that difficult. By then, even if you're just pointing and going, yeah, you run there, you know, it shouldn't be too hard. And I think that's the thing. So he's still using that excuse now, and he's using the excuses of learning how we play. And he's been in now for, 3 years? Like, what have they been learning for the last 3 years? What have they been learning? How not to play? They've been playing Scrabble. What have they been doing? Surely he's been ingraining this into training over the last 3 years. So, yeah, it's not ideal. Helen, Jays, your thoughts, or is that like a different language to you?
I love her. She's so exciting. Maybe this is a bit much. She reminds me of Marta, like that Brazilian flair, that fearlessness to take the players on. I know the end product hasn't been there, but she's only just arrived. But yeah, what Skinner's saying, that's such an own goal, like for him. And maybe you shouldn't have sold all the Spanish-speaking players, or who could have helped. I know they speak Portuguese in Brazil, but I imagine it's quite similar. So
it's right. He brought in a range. Oh no, maybe not.
Understand how to play our football either.
No, she can't get a chance.
And he does speak English, so.
And did Lucia Garcia take that long to learn English? Not really. Did Honor? Not really. Right.
Naughty,
But
Alan. Funny, but it's naughty.
I just hope I just hope we can keep Jace and she's not put off by the ineptitude. And because imagine these players seeing these press conferences, you know, they can see them anytime. It's on the internet. It's there forever.
It is. It's one of those things where, at the end of the day, like they're talking here about what's this master plan that Skinner's got that's going to take 30 to 50 games to learn, and it is just it's just excuses, and it's absolute madness. It really is. Fee, you've brought yourself onto our little rival channel. Is there any positives for Everton? Because it's sounding pretty glum, and I'm not used to you being quite so glum over there. Usually, you're talking about the possibilities that Everton have got, but it doesn't feel like it's your season. It doesn't really feel like it's our season. We're all feeling a bit glum at the moment and just wallowing in each other's misery. But what are the positives for Everton? You just had the game at Goodison Park against Liverpool, which, you know, had quite a few people there. It wasn't necessarily a barnstorming sellout, but bigger numbers than you would ordinarily get, obviously, at Walton Hall Park, and a good opportunity for the girls to play in their stadium as it should be. So what are the positives? What can you look out for at Everton and say this has been good this season?
I think the work we've done defensively has been good. Even with no defenders, we have had players come in. Just last weekend at the derby, Justine van Havermaet's block in the second half, throw a body at the ball, incredible football. Our players have sort of become one team now. I think for a couple of seasons, with the amount that went in and out, we've had a very disjointed team, and we now have a team that sort of fused together. They know where each other are going to be. They can trust each other, and I think a big part of that now is we've got a lot of our injured players back. Rambo's back again. Katvaya, the home guard twins, big players that we depend on, are back, and just having them around the squad makes a massive difference.
How long is it going to take them, though, to understand? How long is it going to take Emily Ramsey to understand how to play in goal again, though? That's always the question you've got to ask yourself.
20 to 23 games at least.
23
20
games.
to 23 seconds.
Oh, okay. Seconds. I misread that. Sorry. Games. Struggling. English is not my first language either.
I'm not concerned about Emily Ramsey fitting right back into goal because I've seen her work with our goalkeeping coach. I know while she's been out a long time, the right work has been put in, and Brian's very clear about how he wants the players to play. And I think we saw last season, he came in last summer, straight away that we were playing his style of football. It didn't take half a season for it to bed in.
I'll tell you something. If Mark Skinner and Manchester United defeat Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final, I don't flip-flop, but I might be willing to grant him the keys to the city if we manage to beat Chelsea.
I mean, you can have Brian Sorensen if you want him.
I'll leave that to Charlie and Helen. Would you take that, Helen? Brian Sorensen?
What, a straight swap?
Yeah. Can I have your budget as well?
Oh no, have you not heard? We've not invested. Dogs disagree. Dogs are angry.
See, that's what the dog's trying to remind you. Would you, Helen? Would you take Sorensen? Or would you rather a serene malt loaf?
I would, you know.
The serene malt loaf.
Can I ask a question?
Ryan, sorry.
Can I ask a question?
You can. Why not?
Obviously, I've read a little bit about obviously there's a bigger issue going on at Everton at the moment, which is really unfortunate because there's no parity, is there, from club to club, whether you're allowed to spend too much money or not. But is it that have Everton women always been poorly funded? Because I think it's a real shame about the last few years for them, because they've been a proper stalwart of the women's game. Like, they've won the FA Cup twice. Like, they're in they got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League once, I'm sure. Like, phenomenal players have played for them, and some still do. Have they always been poorly funded, always got the bare minimum, or is what's going on with Everton as a bigger picture at the moment? Are you seeing that have a greater negative impact on the women's side?
I think a lot of it's to do with the bigger picture. If you look back historically, Everton was one of the clubs to be part of. You look at a lot of the England players and where have they all played? They've all come through Everton at some point. Nikita Parris came through Everton. Lucy Bronze came through Everton. Jill Scott came through Everton. And a couple of seasons ago, we had, I think, when we were sponsored by Megaphone before all the Russia issues, we had great investment. We were throwing money at the women's team. We bought like Natalie Bjorn, Hannah Bennison, Ken Zadali all in one season. With everything that then kicked off between Russia and Ukraine, all the Russian money got pulled out, and then the club had those bigger financial issues. I know between last season where we came 6th, 5th, top half of the table anyway, and this season, instead of that success leading to more investment, we got less money. Our budget was cut. And I think that's a lot to do with the overall financial picture of Everton at the moment, in all that money's being invested into the men's side. I think that's happened with a lot of the sales that we've made this year with players like Gabby George, Natalie Bjorn. That money hasn't always been available to us to then reinvest.
Well, there you go. Well, we're nearly done. Let's. You're right, absolutely, JJ. It's a very fair point. It is quite sad to see what the state of affairs are like at the moment, but we should probably ask what we think the scores are going to be. So Fiona, will let you get it out of the way first. Presumably, you're going to say 2-1 Everton. You're just going to nick it at the end.
I was actually going to say 2-1 Everton with a late goal. No, 2-1 United. Everton will get their one goal late in the second half. I think United will beat us. I normally come on and say Everton to win. But I've got to set my expectations realistically. I don't want to come away from the game feeling like we've had a massive loss. For me at the moment, I just take it if we played well and our goals look like they could have won, I'm happy with that at the moment.
Absolutely. Do you know what? It's a great question from Sporty here, which we'll just throw to you quickly as well. What do you think about United loaning Clinton out for the last 2 seasons? Do you think she'll stay next season, or do you think we risk losing her? Obviously, we got her from you and sent her out for a couple of seasons. She's now putting up trees at Spurs, which isn't easy to do, but she's done it. What are your thoughts on that?
I love Grace as a person. I think she'll stay at Spurs. I think Spurs will put the offer in for her. She was absolutely wasted at her time at United. Skinner did not get the best out of her, and I don't think she'll want to put herself back at risk of being in that position where she sat on the bench. She likes playing football. She likes being out on the pitch, and that wasn't happening for her at United.
Fair enough. Somebody's actually just suggested that Keita's going to get a hat-trick, but as NT says here, remember it's a brace -1. We call that a brace +1. Helen, what do you reckon the score's going to be?
I went for 3-0 to United with the Jace brace and the customary Nikita Parris goal.
Jace brace. Like that. And you don't know it. And Charlie?
I can't see us not conceding because we're so shaken back. This is not my prediction for the predictions league because I'm not sharing that. But I'm going to go next best thing. I reckon 4-2. I reckon it'll be uncomfortable for a long time. It'll be 2-2, and then we'll get 2 late ones. what I would really like is Parris to get. Isn't she like 1 goal shy of being of scoring the most goals that a player scored for United in a season? That's what I'm looking forward to. Is just little small morsels of happiness like that. I'd like her to get her goal. She's not scored for a few weeks now. Ever since Serena made this mythical phone call to her about what she needs to do to get in the Lionesses squad, she's absolutely dried with the goals. However, apparently Serena does pick strikers that don't score any goals. So maybe that is actually what she told her to do, is you need to stop scoring and then I'll select you. Anyway, 4-2. It'll be fun. Rip roaring.
I like your faith that Everton can get 2 in.
And I think we are that dreadful. We are that shapeless at the back. And also, we've been quite flappy from set pieces. We've been bullied a bit. And you're talking about that being an area that Everton can perhaps capitalise on.
Well, there you go. Very, very interesting. I think it's still going to be quite good. I can't help myself. I've got to try and be optimistic. So I'm going to go 4-0. just because why not?
Doing his
Like,
living.
I can't just sit here and be negative every single minute of the day, especially considering how I'm going to end the show. So I know, right? So interesting news that came out. Obviously, we've got this Matt Johnson fella, haven't we? Who's coming in as the new director of football to replace Polly Bancroft. And he says in his press conference how he was texting him the other day, and he's really looking forward to working with him. He knows him from his time at Blackburn and all that sort of stuff. So if I'm brutally honest, at this moment in time, I cannot see Mark Skinner not being at this club next season as it stands. If he stays in control, because the mates, why would you sack your mate? The way that he's talking did not sound too good. In answer to this question, High Lane, well, Serena Wiegman is an idiot, but there we go. Why would you put Millie Turner over May Letizia? I mean, I love Millie Turner, but May Letizia is the future. Something that Swellenber and I agree on.
Desmee Morgan over May Letizia. That's probably the bigger question.
That is absolutely. But it's nice for Millie to be in there and not just be the backup. So that's all rather to not just be, brought in there because somebody else couldn't play. I want to leave you with some final quotes because I felt like Mark Skinner was talking to me and a few other people. So I'm going to throw out just some Mark Skinner pearls of wisdom to finish our show today, which is probably going to send you all into a frenzy, but then you can go and watch the men and be even more annoyed. So he said, I always find that when you have a way of looking at something or a slant or a view of something or somebody, it's easy to fit your narrative. You can put that into. So you forget to look at the good things that people are doing. You just look at it and put it into a negative slant. And then he was asked about, could we use the fact that Liverpool have gone into fourth as like a kick up the backside? Tom Gary asked that one. And he says, we don't look at the table rather than your performance. I think, yeah, it can affect you if you look at the table rather than your performance, But from our perspective, it doesn't matter. That's an ego thing. We want to look at the performance. We want to win things here, but apparently you can win things by not being fourth. We're in a semi-final of an FA Cup, and we're in the place we currently are. I and the team are fully driven to win as many of the games as we can. If it serves as a reminder that the league is getting tighter, it's fantastic. But actually, yeah, I don't think it'll affect us because it won't make us fight any harder than we're already going to fight, Tom.
What?
So I'd like to review it. I think we're going to lose 1-0 because the rate it's going, I can't. Connor made me. He didn't make me watch that, but the fact that he wasn't on the show today meant I had to listen to every. Usually, I just let him give me a snippet of the press conference that makes me go mad. I've listened to 20 minutes of Mark Skinner tonight, and that's 20 minutes of my life I'm never, ever, ever going to get back. So I'm going to go and dunk my head in a bath somewhere and just sort of, it's mad, isn't it?
Can I say one thing and then I'll
Chazza.
I remember early in the season when we weren't winning games also that time, and he said, we're never, what did he say? He said, we're never going to put results above performance. So he said, we're never gonna, and I remember watching that thinking, we just want to win a game of football. Like, I didn't think there could be anything madder than that, than saying, well, if we play well and lose, that's all right. Because if we win 1-0 and we haven't played so well, that's rubbish. Like, that's what he was saying.
He's all about the performance, but let's be honest, what's the point in worrying about performance? Because we're not going to perform until 2025 when everybody's got 50 games.
But this is the same man who said winning 4-0 was not good enough.
It's
just remember he has said that.
What do the players think? Like,
I'd imagine they're thinking pretty much the same sort of thing as us, which is how much longer can they carry on letting him do press conferences? But there you go. And the thing is, he's so polite with them. He's lovely with them. But I have to credit to the press. I listened to some of the questions, and it was almost as if the press are watching what we do, because a lot of the questions are questions that we were asking, things about why don't you rotate the midfield and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, very interesting.
Can I when he answers a question like that,
yeah.
which
he has a straight face, yeah.
fully understands what he's actually said there. As a journalist allowed to say, like, would they ever say, I don't know what you've just said there. What do you mean? Like, do they do stuff like that?
I mean, they probably could, but it's over Zoom, so they'd be disconnected quite quickly, I would imagine. Complete control. But yeah, very interesting. So there you go. If you want to go and watch it, feel free. If not, I've literally dredged through the sewage of that particular thing for you, so you don't have to. But we've certainly left a lot of that in here. So, Fee, thank you so much for joining us again. Pleasure to have you back on. Helen, again for you, thank you very much, and the little cameo from the cat as well was lovely as ever. And of course, Charlie, brilliant to have you on. We'll see you again on Monday.
Yeah.
We'll all be back on Monday. I did have some starred ones. I should probably, this was got to give you the quote, the absolute quote of the show so far. Can we just all agree that Skinner is the only thing holding Skinner back? I wish somebody would hold him back from the press conferences, but there we are. There we go. Listen, we're all off to go and watch Man United probably get spanked by Brentford, but we'll see how we get on. We'll be on the men's channel tomorrow to review all of that. We are on the women's channel back on Monday, and Connor should be back, all being well, freshly permed and coiffed, ready for yet another fantastic evening of What Has Mark Skinner Said Now. See you Monday.